Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. In this session we shall discuss the topic cloud analysis and forecasting. The learning objectives of today's module is to know the definitions of important terminologies and standard symbols related to clouds, to know the techniques to distinguish clouds from other features and differentiate among various cloud forms using satellite imageries, to know the distribution of cloudiness, zones of maximum and minimum cloudiness and precipitation across the globe, and lastly to know the steps involved in cloud forecasting. Let us see the introduction. Clouds are important within the climatic system as they interact with both short wave solar radiation and long wave terrestrial radiation. Much of the uncertainty in the climatic models predicted rise in global mean temperature is due to the frequency and behavior of clouds in a future climate. Clouds are important in short term forecast produced by NWP models, as good forecasts of cloud position and type are the first step towards reliable forecast of precipitation location and intensity. Another reason of importance of cloud in weather forecast is that low level clouds tend to reduce visibility of mountains and tall obstructions like trees, buildings, etc. This can affect the flight patterns of civilian and military aircrafts as well as the rescue operations. Clouds influence the radiation balance of Earth, and hence its correct representation is important to ensure accurate surface temperature forecasts. In warm conditions, this will affect the rate of evaporation and soil water status, while under cold conditions, the amount of cloud is important for frost forecasting. The amount of ice formation on aircrafts while they cruise through the clouds is dependent on the cloud water content, phase and temperature of the clouds. So, accurate forecast of clouds is important to ensure safe flight condition. Lastly, for various weather related services, aviation management, etc., it is important to know the cloudiness and precipitation pattern across the globe. Now, let us see important definitions. First is cloud cover. It is estimated by the observer and expressed on a scale ranging from 0 to 8. 0 means clear sky, 4 means one half of the sky is covered, and 8 means complete overcast sky. Till 1948, the cloud cover was used to be reported on a scale ranging from 0 to 10. And ceiling, it is the height of the cloud cover above the ground. The information is important for aircraft operation. A ceiling is said to exist if the clouds below 10,000 feet cover more than one half of the sky. If the cloud cover is less or the base is higher, then ceiling is said to be unlimited. The height of the ceiling is measured by small balloons whose accretional velocity is known. At night, it may be measured by attaching a light to the balloon. More commonly used is the ceiling light, which is a vertical beam that throws a spot on the base of the cloud. The elevation angle of the spot is observed from a neighboring place and the height is obtained by simple trigonometry. Next important terminology is visibility. This is the largest distance at which prominent objects such as mountains, buildings, towers, etc. can be identified by the unaided eye. The distance depends upon the impurities in the air and upon the density of fog, mist, precipitation, etc. In a dense smoke, the visibility may be only a few feet, while in the pure air of the Arctic winter, mountains may be seen at a distance of as high as more than 100 miles. Now, techniques for cloud observation and analysis. Visual observations. In fact, there are standard symbols. You can see the table. Here the unit of cloud cover is octa, and 0 octa means complete clear sky, whereas 8 octas indicate a complete overcast situation. In addition, in the sign-off code, there is an extra cloud cover indicator 9. It means the sky is totally obscured, that is hidden from view. That is usually due to dense fog or heavy snow, and hence the cloud cover cannot be determined. As you know that there are 10 principal cloud forms, which are cirrus, cirrostratus, cirrocumulus, altocumulus, altostratus, stratus, stratocumulus, nimbostratus, cumulus congestus and cumulonimbus. So, these are represented by the symbols as depicted in the table. Now, techniques for cloud observation analysis using satellite visible imageries. Satellite imageries are nowadays being extensively used by synoptic network for cloud analysis. Zones of cloudiness are identified from the satellite imagery as regions of upward velocity and hence potential areas for occurrence of rainfall. Visible infrared and water vapor images have distinctive uses and are complementary to each other. The satellite cloud images in IR and visible channels mainly reflect the top brightness, temperature and albedo information of clouds. Due to its higher albedo than other Earth surface features except snow, in visible imagery the clouds appear as white or light grey. Based on the variation of albedo in visible imagery, the cloud, land and sea can be easily differentiated. The sea and other water bodies have lower albedo and look darker, whereas the land appears relatively brighter than sea but darker than clouds. The physical properties of the clouds like depth, cloud water content, cloud droplet size, etc. affect the albedo, which ultimately reflects in the color and brightness of the clouds. In case of larger depth, high cloud water and small cloud droplet size, the cloud albedo values will be high and vice versa. Moreover, as the sun shines obliquely on the cloud structure, the shadow of the upper part of the cloud falls on the lower part, and as a result the vertical structure of the cloud is revealed in visible band images. Along with the detection, the identification of different types of clouds can be possible by utilizing the textural information. As for example, stratocumulus clouds can be distinguished from stratus by using the cellular pattern in visible images. This table contains some typical albedo values for Earth surface features and clouds. For example, ocean and lakes have the least albedo, about 8%, then somewhat higher land surface and soil, they have about 14 to 18%, sand or desert about 27%. If you take snow, in case of old snow it is about 60%, for fresh snow it is a little bit higher, about 80%. For shallow broken clouds it is about 30%, and if the cloud is thick then it goes above 70%. For deep cumulonimbus clouds the albedo may be about 90%. Now observation and analysis of cloud using satellite infrared imageries. In false color IR imageries, objects with lower temperature are assigned lighter or brighter shade. Due to their lower temperature, the clouds generally appear lighter than other Earth surface features. In this regard, both the infrared and visible imageries have the similarity. As the cloud temperature is decreasing with increasing height, the contrast among different levels of cloud can be visualized in infrared imageries, but not in visible imageries. Similarly, the thin transparent cirrus cloud over warmer surfaces can be detected in infrared images, whereas it is not possible with visible band alone. Alongside the advantages of infrared imagery over visible, it has also certain limitations. Unlike visible, it is not possible to extract cloud textural information from infrared images, as infrared is based on emitted radiation, not scattered radiation as in case of visible images. During night hours, the low clouds and fog cannot be detected as the temperature difference with the underlying surface is very less. Geostationary satellites like INSAT, GOES or Meteosat series satellites are normally deployed for real-time monitoring of cloud and some other weather parameters. So these are the images in different bands of INSAT 3D satellites in visible, middle infrared, in 2 channels of thermal infrared and sweep channels. How clouds are seen, it is shown here, and then the false color imagery and using all these bands. Now rules to determine cloud characteristics by comparing visible and infrared satellite images. If the cloud is bright white on infrared, then it is a high cloud or has a cloud top that is developed high into the troposphere. If a cloud is bright white on visible but not bright enough for her to see in the infrared, then it is likely to be a cloud occurring close to the Earth's surface. This can happen when there is a thick layer of fog or stratus cloud near the surface. Thunderstorms appear bright white on both visible and infrared bands. A thick cloud appears bright white in visible band due to high albedo, and cold cloud tops are assigned bright white color on infrared images. To be sure about the presence of a thunderstorm in an area, some other features should be looked into, like anvil blow off, overshooting top, and extremely textured appearance in visible imagery. If a cloud is not very white on visible as well as IR imageries, then it is likely a thin cloud or a cloud occurring near the surface. Around the sunset time, there is a less reflection of sun rays from the cloud. Hence, in visible images, clouds will not appear as white as it would be in other times of the day when the incidence angles of the sun are also different. High level clouds like cirrus or detached anvils of thunder clouds look wispy in visible channel and very bright white in infrared channel. Cumulus clouds have a lumpy structure. Stratus clouds have a flat texture, especially on infrared, and cirrus clouds tend to be thin and show up white on infrared. In this slide, you can see there are two photographs. These are actually images of a satellite covering some part of United States. In the left, it is in the visible channel, and in the right, it is in the infrared channel. You can see much of the cloud is bright white on visible in Texas, but they have much darker shades on IR imageries. So, this indicates it is a low cloud. Now, there are thunderstorms in eastern Tennessee. The clouds are bright white in both visible and infrared images. Around the western part of Mississippi, the clouds are of middle to high level cloud, and they could be producing light precipitation. Now, distribution of cloudiness and rainfall. There are two zones of maximum cloudiness in each hemisphere. The primary maxima of cloudiness are found in the temperate zones between 30 to 60 degree north and south latitudes, where there is prevalence of cyclones and fronts. The secondary maxima of cloudiness are positioned in the equatorial region. However, in terms of rainfall, the primary maxima of cloudiness produce minimum rain, and the secondary maxima of cloudiness produce the maximum rain. The reason for such contrast is that in temperate region, precipitation occurs mainly from the stratus type of clouds, whereas in the equatorial belt, it is mostly from the cumulus or cumulonimbus type of clouds. In each hemisphere, the latitude of subtropical anticyclones and trade winds witness minimum amount of cloudiness. Within the subtropical high pressure belt, the cloudiness is less over the continents than on the ocean. Annual and diurnal variations in cloudiness. In the equatorial region, there is little variation from one month to the other, but between 10 to 20 degree north and south latitudes, the cloud and rainfall maxima occurs during summer months. The western side of the continents within the subtropical belt have the cool season maxima of cloudiness as well as precipitation. In the higher latitudes, the interiors of the continents have summer maxima of cloudiness. Daily variation in cloudiness depends on the type of cloud present in the sky. Like in case of cumulus or cumuliform clouds, a maximum is reached in the early and middle afternoon, whereas stratus and other stratiform clouds show their maxima in the early morning. Now, forecasting of cloud. Depending on the time period of validity, cloud forecasting can be either termed as short term forecasting or long term forecasting. For short term forecasting, maximum validity period is about 12 hours. Long term forecasting is that when validity period is more than 12 hours. However, forecast reliability becomes less and less with time. That is, for compared to short term forecast, in long term forecast, reliability will be slightly less. In case of frontal clouds, for both type of forecasting, three major aspects need careful considerations. The first step in short term forecasting is current cloud situation analysis. With the help of combination of surface observations, upper air observations and ascents and satellite imageries, current cloud situation can be analyzed in detail. Only surface observations may not be sufficient, as higher level clouds may be blocked from view or detection. On the other hand, satellites sometimes cannot detect the lower clouds due to the shadow of upper level clouds on the lower level. The second step is to know the advection of the current state of clouds with wind field. This involves analysis of the component of gradient wind normal to the front and the actual or forecast wind situation at the cloud level. The third step is the development of the current state with time. That is, we need to know how with time the current state is changing. To know this, we need to find out the pressure tendencies, any wave development on front, then development areas on upper air charts, local effects such as orographic barrier, then nearness to the coast, etc. Early frame of model output are verified against actual observation for refining the forecast. In case of long term forecasting of clouds, The guidelines is the same as that of short term forecasting. In addition, the following are also done. Model outputs are used to position the fronts, lows, rain bands and assesses the likely activity of the system. Classical frontal theory and local knowledge are applied to produce a best estimate of the probable cloud structure. To summarize, clouds are important in the climatic system as they influence the radiation budget of allocation. Good forecast of cloud position and cloud type are the first step to achieve good forecast on rainfall. Modern cloud detection techniques are based on the satellite images in the visible and infrared channels. Clouds are distinguished from other objects based on its higher reflectance value and lower temperature. IR and visible images of cloud recorded by a satellite mainly reflect the trough brightness, temperature and albedo of the clouds. The forecasting of frontal cloud involves three principal considerations, namely analysis of the current cloud situation, advection of the current state of cloud with wind field and development of current state with time. Daily variation in cloudiness depends on the type of cloud. There are two zones of maximum cloudiness in each hemisphere. The primary maxima lie between 30 to 60 degree north and south latitudes. Equatorial region show the secondary maxima. However, in terms of rainfall, the equatorial region shows the primary maxima due to high intensity rain from cumulus clouds. Subtropical highs are the belts of minimum cloudiness in each hemisphere. Within the subtropical highs, cloudiness is less on the continents than on the ocean. The western side of the continents within the subtropical belt have maximum cloudiness and precipitation during the cold season. In the higher latitude regions, interior of the continents gets higher amount of cloudiness during the summer months. Near equator, there is least month to month variation in cloudiness. On the other hand, between 10 and 20 degree latitude in both hemisphere, the maximum cloud as well as rainfall occurs during the summer months. Thank you.